to Blue UK Jazz Dance, my project, Dance on the Edge of My Legacy. One of the key things I want to share with individuals, part of my project, this is the way I work as a person with dyslexia. This is what I need. I need colourful images. I'm a visual learner. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I'm putting down some ideas, and one of the key things I want people to understand, and one of the key individuals involved in the UK in rethinking Real Talk and reclaiming, I want to ask individuals around the world, how much do you know about West Indians in the UK? And I'll tell you this, you know very little, because there's very little about us, because their history has been hidden. Particularly the history of the 1700s, particularly the history of the 1800s, particularly the history of the 1900s has been hidden. We're just recently getting books. This is not in society. You need to understand, specialists of books are just coming out, not mainstream books. My father came into this world and left, just seen a new book that came out in 2015, I think it came out, or 2014, on the Caribbean. He saw photographs he's never seen in his life. Cultural crisis came to UK, cultural crisis came to the US, cultural crisis came to Europe for African diaspora people across the board. You know why? Because they were identified, they had no legacy in the country. In the 1800s, you can see the West Indian legacy. In the 1900s, you can see West Indian legacy. It was hidden. So 1950, 1960, we've not seen the information of us being here. And my focus is really, my involvement in UK jazz dance is now 43 years. There's no major book that actually shares the culture with you. No major book that shares the legacy with you. There's no major book that tells you the history, the roots of the history from our parents. Shares information that's important about what we did, how we did it, how we went about our lives. No information tells you how we developed the dance and took it and brought it into education, etc. There's no information telling you about the social development, the physical development, the intellectual development, the cultural, emotional, spirit, the political, economic, technological, environmental. They don't tell you the importance of dress. And my focus is on the dress. Once you start with the dress, let me tell you something, everything starts to fit into place. Because you need to understand, many of our parents didn't have clothes. Didn't have a suit or pair of shoes in the 1950s till they were going to America or they were coming to Britain because they needed it for that. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay money for it. Their parents wouldn't justify it. But if you're coming to Britain, they knew you had to have a new suit of clothes. You have to have suit shoes because you're going to be in Britain, it's going to be cold, etc., etc. You have to have clothes here. And that was the significance in 1950 when people did mass migration. We had to promote a positive image of us because we were placed in zoos. We were placed in circuses. And we were mocked as people who were uncivilized, who didn't know how to dress. We didn't have grace. See, clothes identifies a lot about a people. When people see you, you can't hide it. When you see a person's hair, you see a person's shoes, you see a person dressed, the way they design their clothes. It's important for people to understand how people do the homes, the architecture. We was identified as a people that don't have nothing to do with the arts. You have to understand the significance when we have everything to do with arts from Africa. Everything to do with art stems from Africa. You understand? It's important people to understand. And that's in our DNA. To do with design, architecture, science, technology, business innovation, enterprise, social development, physical development, intellectual development, environmental development. Remember, first, everybody learnt this from the land, and there's no bigger land to learn it from than Africa. So in Britain, we've been written out of early learning. You need to see the reports on West Indians. I thought, wow, a major social injustice, so I'm going to do something about it. First of all, there's no point me talking about other people's culture. It's my culture, but talk about my time, my art form. 1964, Blue came into this world. 2015, I'm here. 2017, I'm still here. I need to share with information about the culture I've been involved in for 43 years and say to you, how much do you know about Blue UK jazz dance? How much do you know about UK jazz dance in the north of England, Manchester? And you need to know a lot about Manchester because Manchester was a major ground for battles between the dancers. And this has not been acknowledged because what's happened, the writers in London don't want you to know that. The major ground for all dancers across the country was Manchester, not London. People on a major scale didn't travel there for all days. They travelled to the north of England. Manchester and the rest of the north of England for the Ordeas. London had to come to the north of England, full stop, to meet the dancers. So imagine like a Lindy Hop competition in America. People have to travel. That's how Manchester was the place, for example. Birmingham was the place. Leeds was a place. Preston was a place. You went to certain key places. Wigan Pier were a place where people went and congregated to do the dancing. Blue UK Jazz Dance. Take it easy.